I'm going to be showing you how to begin editing photos in Photoshop, focusing on filter effects. And so here I'll grab, actually I haven't processed this one yet, so I'm going to open this into Photoshop. So first I'll open up Photoshop. I can go to my Spotlight search, or if you're using a PC, you can find a way to open the application with a PC. I'll just type in Photoshop in my Spotlight. Here's my current 2021. Let's just open up 2021. Open. Okay, so I've opened it, and there are a couple of different ways that you can open a file inside of Photoshop. You could click on the Open button right here, and then navigate, to your subfolder for the class, finding the image that you want. So you could do that and just click on Open. I'm going to be doing it a different way, which is sort of my personal preference. I'll be in a Finder window, and I can find the image, and then I'll just click and drag it. Not onto the window. I could do it right here, but please form the habit of just dropping it onto the icon of the app in your dock. So I held that a little bit too long because of my demo. So just drop it into the icon. And I'll tell you why later to do that, but that's really the best way to have that habit of opening up files in that way. Really will be best, especially for future projects that we do. So here's my image, and then here is the workspace of Photoshop. Quick introduction to some terminology here. On the left side is the toolbar. So if I say blank tool, XYZ tool, the move tool, for example, the marquee tool, the lasso tool, here's the zoom tool. Yeah, there are others here that we're going to get to, but those are like the main ones to sort of start out with. Move tool, marquee tool, lasso tool. Here's the quick selection tool. In the toolbar, if you see like a little bit of a notch of a rectangle in the bottom right, if you click and hold, that will reveal a side tool, or like a bundle of tools that are sort of like, together. They're sort of like in the same area of the toolbar, and you can see extra tools that are bundled together. So for example, if I click and hold on the marquee, I can see, there's like one other marquee tool available there. Under the lasso, here's a few other lasso tools available here. So toolbars on the left. The options bar for a given tool would be here. So if I have a tool selected, I can see the icon of the tool repeated here, and then these would be the options or the settings for that particular tool. So if I change the tool, I can see that the options will change because these are specific to each tool. The very top here are the different menus. So if I say the file menu, that would be this, layer menu would be this, image menu would be here. So that's the menu bar. Now on the right side here are panels. A key panel that we're going to be looking at to start out with would be the layers panel. And so that we're seeing it right here. I can see my background image. Here's a tiny thumbnail that just repeats what I'm able to see in my main image here. So I've opened an image, and now I want to explore how this image can be processed and transformed using filters. So I'm going to go to my filter menu, click on this, and then I'm going to go to filter gallery. So click on this, and this opens up a really big menu of all kinds of options, and I'm going to sort of show these to you in a second. But first, I want to be able to see my whole image right here. To do that, there's two ways. I could just go down to this bar right here where my zoom settings are and just sort of minus until I can see the whole thing in my view. Or I could click on this arrow right here and then click on Fit in View, and that'll just sort of fit it inside of this window. And I'll just sort of undo that and go back to where I was a moment ago. Or if you do Control and then click, you get this pop-up menu, and then one of those options is Fit in View. So I'm going to fit this in view, and now I can see my whole image nicely right here. Now, wow, here's a transformation. Now this is actually using the last filter that I had used when I was using Photoshop. So you're not likely to see this filter automatically selected, but to see what filter is actually being applied right here, you just look over to this bar right here. This is naming the filter. This is the bas relief filter, and I can see of my menu right here, this is the one that is highlighted in this darker gray. That is the current filter being applied. I'm going to pop out of that because the menu that you're going to see first is the artistic brushes, not the artistic brushes, but the artistic filters. And so I'm going to just click on, say, Cutout. Now, as the instructions say, the whole point of doing this project is to transform your source photos so that there is something really new, has a very different look, has a very different feeling. Indeed, it's like a different experience for your viewers. And sometimes when you actually apply a filter effect to transform your image, even the meaning or the implied meanings of the image change. So that's something we're going to be actually checking out in some interesting ways actually through this project when you guys complete this project yourself. So here I have cutout selected, which is actually a filter I really enjoy. And let's look at the settings. So each filter will have settings available to you that will be on the right side here. And so it's going to be a number of different sliders. And they're going to be kind of self-explanatory sometimes, but then sometimes not at all self-explanatory. Like, what does number of levels mean? Well, there is a technical description for that, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. What I want you guys to do is actually just play with the sliders, and the best way to explore this is to just move them to the extremes of being to the extreme right and the extreme left. So left and right, and just compare the differences. Explore how, whoa, yeah, so this really gets chopped down. So explore what happens to your image as you go to the extremes of the far left and the far right. And notice that, the combinations of these all will have an impact as well. Like if I go a little bit here for this one setting, a little bit here for this other one, a little bit here for this other one here. Like for example, edge fidelity. I'm noticing in this case, if I have edge simplicity to 0, it doesn't matter what I do with edge fidelity. And this is something that you're going to observe with some of these settings for some of these filters, is that some of these settings actually depend on other settings. I might have lied. Was that just taking a second to update? Let me just check that again. I'm going to max it out. Sometimes, and this is a matter of processing speed, depending on the speed of your computer, it actually might take some time for the preview window of your image with the effect applied to update. If you have a less powerful laptop, and actually I have a pretty powerful laptop myself, but if you have like a less powerful one, it might take a few moments. If you actually change a slider, it might take a few moments or even like several seconds sometimes for the image to update. So just keep in mind that as part of your creative exploration. So anyways, if I have edge simplicity zeroed out, in this case, it seems that this thing called edge fidelity, whatever that means, doesn't really have an effect. So in this case, this slider, actually it does have an effect. Or does it? Maybe that was its simplicity that was updating. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about this too long, because I do know if it's not true in this case that this is true in some other cases, is that some sliders, some settings actually rely upon some value being in a nearby setting. So I'm going to increase my edge simplicity, and then I can see how edge fidelity really does have a really big impact on changing the image in different ways. So anyways, this is an example of exploring the different possibilities. Now in terms of creative impact, this is something I want to say for a moment. Like say when I go really extreme in this direction, and let's just try, really low fidelity, and then really high simplicity. At a certain point, there may not be much that you're offering your viewers. So please keep that in mind. That is a matter of sort of judgment, but also intention. Like, if you're going to be the artist doing something to a piece, what do you hope to accomplish, and what do you hope to offer your audience after you implement a creative transformation? Now, in this case, to my mind and to my heart, there's not a whole lot that this is going to be offering an audience. It is interesting. I mean, I would say that it's interesting in some ways, but it's like, well, I mean, I myself don't know what I make of it. It's like, okay, well, I'm not really sure what this is. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, and why am I feeling or thinking about this? Like, what does it really matter? And so, in this case, maybe it does go too far. If you have some recognizability, of your original subject matter with a clear creative transformation that's been applied to it, that's the sweet spot. And so here we can clearly see the original subject matter, and yet we can also, and I'm going to just play with this until we can get maybe to a point of being a little bit more of a clear transformation. And I'm liking this. This is clearly not really like the original photograph. Clearly, there is a creative process that I've applied. I might even go so far as this that might be going a little bit too far. I'm going to back off a little bit. And that feels pretty good for the number of levels. Let me just explore different levels of simplicity. Ooh, this actually gets pretty interesting here. At a certain point with the cutout filter, I'm noticing and I'm observing that it almost begins to feel like a cartoon in a way. Or a poster. Like if I was like to create a poster design that was using this source photograph as a source material, this could be pretty interesting as a poster design. At a certain point, edge fidelity too low, that might make it a little bit too broken down, a little bit too simplistic. Let me just maximize this to sort of see how this looks. Actually, not too many changes as I go, from 2 to 3, but a little bit. I'm going to sort of settle around an edge fidelity of 2 in this case. Maybe yeah, that's a little bit too much broken down. So maybe about right here. So here is something of a sweet spot. I'm still retaining some of these really nice textural details of the lens of this headlight. Those are still visible right here. I have something of the sense of the contour, the curvature. I'm getting a sense of that because I'm still retaining some of those details because of my process of exploring like the right balance between strong transformation but not so far that you can't really recognize and enjoy some of the details of the original. So this is a really strong transformation, but it also does give me a sense of the original subject matter. So this is potentially like a really cool example and really lovely. I could say okay to this, but then here's where I'm going to be adding some extra information to your process. Before you go into your filter menu to explore things, don't just sort of jump straight in there before you do one thing. I'm going to do Command-Z, or another way to actually look at this, if you look at your history panel, and this is the little icon for history, if I click on that, I can see that I can actually just step up one from the bottom. This line tells me that I just did a filter gallery change. If I step back to the point of my history where I opened the image, this is where I got to in the original, and I'm going to just step back to that and do one thing before I apply a filter. Convert your background layer to become a smart object. I'm not going to explain now why, but please do that, and I'm going to talk about it in class when we meet on Thursday. So you go to your layer menu, smart objects, convert to smart object. Now it's a smart object. I'll just jump back into my filter menu, filter gallery, cut out. I still have these settings. Let me just make sure I can see the whole thing, fit in view, and voila, that looks lovely. I'm going to say okay to that, and then here's the interesting difference. Notice a moment ago, I didn't have these extra things that showed up after I had applied the filter change. It had actually transformed my image, and it changed the image permanently. What's really nice about converting your layer, your background layer to a smart object first, and then going into your filter gallery to apply the filter, then when you say okay, when you come back out here, you can turn the filter effect on or off as you like. And that is super, super helpful. It gives you flexibility in your editing and also a lot of flexibility in how you might want to process this image in different ways sometime in the future. So this is now a smart filter attached to a smart object. So this layer now is a smart object. And we'll just talk about that a little bit more in class. And if I want to go back in to edit those changes, this is the advantage of a filter attached to a smart object. If I double click on this line, it brings me back into these controls where I can change these settings as much as I want. I could go into a different filter. Oh yeah, this is a cool one. Fresco is fun, especially with certain settings applied. I'm going to go extreme on this one here. Yeah, kind of cool. Let's go for less detail here, so it becomes a little bit more impressionistic. Yeah, you can really just get lost in this stuff. It's just like really fun. A lot of great stuff with filters. And I'm going to sort of just settle on this. I'm going to say okay to this one. Now I have a different image, and if I had not created a smart object first, before going into my filter gallery, I would not be able to do that. I would not be able to actually just go in and change it. I could actually go to my history, undo the history, and then like redo my steps. But this actually gives you so much more flexibility if you do it this way. Smart object, and then the filter becoming a filter attached to the smart object. Awesome, awesome stuff. Okay, so the last part of this demo is showing you how to save the file in the way that I want you guys to save them and then store them on your computer. So go to File, Save As, and then the default should be a Photoshop format. This is your format bar, and these are all different file formats for images. And Photoshop is the default because Photoshop wants you to use their file format, and that's going to be one of the things I ask you to do for this. I'm going to step out here though because I want to create another subfolder for Proj. This should say Proj 1A. I made a mistake in what I did, but you guys actually have Proj 1A, I believe, on your computers because we did this in class today. So I'm going back to my main class menu and then click on New Folder. And then this is going to be Proj 1B. And then for my own keyword, I'll just say filters for this. And I'll just say create. And then I'm going to click into here, and I'm going to call this screen recording. That's not at all what I wanted. This one was my reflection piece. And it says PSD. PSD is the suffix for a Photoshop file format. And then all of this is great. Just retaining this file name format from earlier is going to be great. And then I click on this folder for 1B, and then that's where I'm going to be saving the PSD format. Click on Save. I just say OK to this. You don't even need to read it. It's fine. You could say don't show again if you want this never to show up again, and that would be okay. I'm not going to do that myself, but you might want to do that for yourself. Don't show again, and then click on OK. So then after you do that, saving your Photoshop file format, then you can go back into the File menu and then Save As. And then this time, one change. Change it from a Photoshop format to JPEG or a JPEG. Not JPEG 2000, not JPEG Stereo. Those are specialized things. Just a simple JPEG. Click on that. And I still have my destination folder here from before, Proj1B filters, file name is AOK. Notice the suffix changes automatically to JPG, which is good, and then I click on Save. This you can just ignore, we're not going to get into that for the demo. And then here is an important, this slider should be all the way to the right for maximum quality. Even if this says maximum, notice that if I have it here, that's 10. That's actually not as maximum as it can be. Make sure this is all the way to the right. And then as a standard, please choose the baseline format option. I'm not going to talk about why, but please use that one as just the standard. I'll click on OK. Now to end my demo, if I go into my folder, I can see that I have this new folder. I'm going to just quickly rename this one with an A. Then here's this folder. Oops, put a space there. Then here's this new one for B. And then I have a PSD version of this interestingly transformed image of this close-up of the headlight, and then I have a JPEG version of the same thing. Okay, that's the end of this demo. Thank you for watching.